Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's Quantum Human Revelations. So do say hello in the chat so I can see you. And I know I've got app on my computer today, so hopefully that'll make it easier to see messages, although it's not always the case. Hello, hello, hello. So it's kind of a momentous moment because this is my 50th podcast or 50th live. I think it's not so much what I've been doing, it's the fact that I've shown up 50 times on video, on camera to do these that catches me unawares. So I've actually been quite ill all day today, but luckily I think my red eyes are masked by makeup and I might be coughing a little bit, so excuse me if I have to cough. Oh, and here's Emma. Yes, I thought she was coming. I think we're all here on Zoom, ready to go. So welcome to everybody on YouTube as well. So welcome to this month's Quantum Human Revelation. Are you a high achiever ready to find a different way to approach work and life in a way that lights you up rather than drains you? Are you curious on how you can uncover your potential and your unique guidance to your great vision? And think of great vision now as a new job title. That's what we're going to use instead of job titles in the future. So what would your great vision be if you had to describe it to somebody? Would it be one of a trailblazer? Because that's what today's topic's all about, is how we become a trailblazer. So we've been through various stages on my Metamorphosis program, but tonight we're going to be talking about the penultimate step, but it's also the last podcast tonight, and it's about becoming a trailblazer. So I've been exploring over the 50 episodes different aspects of the metamorphosis journey. And in true trailblazer fashion, I didn't know what they were going to lead to or where they were going. So it's only now that I can look back and see what we've been achieving. And that kind of gives you the feeling for what a trailblazer is. It's that following that calling and stepping up and just being yourself and doing what your heart and your soul is calling you to do. And now, even many years after I did my first Discover Your Great Vision program, it was a bit of a course, and we did a 10-week investigation into what our great vision was back in 2021. It's only now that I can see the relevance of it as artificial intelligence is taking people's jobs. So it's quite interesting to see that my higher self could predict this is where it was going and start me off on my journey and show me all these amazing tools and how I could use them with other people to help them discover their great vision, which is going to help future-proof us for the careers that we're all going to be claiming. I want to say claiming because they're kind of already there. You already have these clues inside you for what you're going to be doing. It's just you haven't quite realized it because job titles and descriptions have kind of been a bit of a cage for you. So I'm welcoming you all to join me on this very last episode. And I say last because it's live, but it is going to be part of my membership from now on in. And as any kind of trailblazing behavior, the whole point of what we're doing is to become in service of humanity. It's part of a bigger movement. Often we think of jobs, personal gains like money and success and climbing the career ladder. And hopefully you'll see that over the last few months, or over the last, I think it's a couple of years actually, that we've been slowly redefining and reimagining what that might actually be. But now for this episode, I want us to step up above our great vision and start thinking of the bigger movement, because a trailblazer isn't about doing the known, it's about doing the unknown. So I want you to start thinking about the bigger movement that overarcs what you're here to do. And think of it in a way that whatever problem there are on the planet right now, you might be the exact person with the right solution, no matter if it's art, poetry, working in corporate, working as a teacher. It doesn't really matter what skill set you've acquired from those jobs. You'll probably have the right combination of tools so that you can help correct these problems in the world and therefore correct the trajectory of humanity. Now, that sounds big, but sometimes when we see our big movement, it's much easier for us to see how our great vision fits into that. So for those that don't know me, I'm Trudy, and Trudy Marie is my entrepreneurial side and White Star is my higher self. So I share information from my entrepreneurial experience as a founder of a tech startup with a degree in artificial intelligence and computing. and also from my higher self, which is White Star, as a visionary, a futurist, and someone connected to divine intelligence. And they're kind of two radically different sides of me. And when I first was called to bring those together, I couldn't see how this was going to work. But by showing up regularly and talking about it is how you create action. You know, you don't always know what your great vision is. You have to just take the first step, show up, do a little bit, and then gradually your message unveils itself to you. And sometimes you'll end up where I am, which has been a 4-year process, but I'm hoping all the tools that I've learned along the way now can help other people get there more quickly. But it's been quite a fascinating journey, allowing White Star, which it is channeling and a source of information that's way beyond me and what I might have created if I was asked to create this program. And I feel that everything that's been downloaded to me has been a guide to help others navigate these times of career changes so that they can find what their purpose is, not from a personality level, but really from this divine plan, new earth. How can we change the way we all live and experience life? And that's quite a big expectation. So hopefully anybody listening in isn't kind of put off by that kind of conversation, that you can see that it's actually you're more capable of achieving this than you might think. So I just want you to tap into that and to really sense into the fact that you have more skills than you probably realize. So I like to think that my work is here to show you, or at least those that are brave enough, because you have to be brave for this work, how to find a radically different way to make a difference in the world. And there are 3 core issues that we'll be looking at tonight. And this is the stage of metamorphosis that is stepping into the trailblazer role. Now, wouldn't it be cool to put trailblazer on your CV? You know, that's what I'm saying. If we're breaking job titles, trailblazer should be on all our CVs and telling people how we use that skill and what we do with it. So there's 3 main kind of blocks to us becoming trailblazers, especially for high achievers. So the first one is about being ahead of our time. Many of us don't realize that we're ahead of our time. The second one is about how we walk in the unknown and how we find direction in the unknown. And the third one is how lonely it is. We often face more rejection than we do support. So I'll talk about these a bit more, but how many of you recognize those 3 things or think that you might have one of those challenges? And if you have got one of those challenges, how are you going to liberate yourself from the old paradigm to create a new one? Yes, we got all three. Well, they're just 3 of them. There's actually a lot more than that, but they're the 3 we're going to use for today. In the full membership, we talk about a lot more. So I'll come back to those in a bit more detail in a moment, but think now, just get into this trailblazer energy. I'm holding the space for you as a trailblazer myself. And I wasn't naturally a trailblazer. I've had to learn how to find my comfort and my resilience in this space. So it's an energy, it's a frequency, as most things are. If we can create that feeling for ourselves and sense that feeling, we can then start aligning our body, our thoughts, and our actions with it. So just think of a world problem that bothers you. Now, it could be global warming, it could be animal welfare, it could be mental health. You might want clean air, as somebody here said last year, clean water, better living conditions. It's something that usually is bugging you. It's something that you are passionate about. So see if you can tune into something like that, and then you'll start getting some clues. That's just one of the pieces of clues that we can use, but that's the one we're going to work with tonight. And then if you want to put that into the comments for me to see, so I know what we're working with, because then I can help you anchor that energy in more. The absurdity of authoritarian and so-called traditional institutions. That's a perfect one. That's an example of a movement. And your great vision is going to somehow be related to that, so that you can chip away at that in your own unique way. I've got my YouTube up, but I'm not seeing any chat on there. If anybody's should put a hello out there, then I can check that I've got connections there. Anybody else want to share theirs? So while you're all thinking about this, because I know perhaps you've never even asked yourself this question, which is why it's an important question that we all should be thinking of right now. If you watch the 2025 outlook for this year, I spoke a lot about how we are responsible for creating a world that the future generations can inherit, that we can make decisions and make changes now that will be appreciated by future generations in a very Aquarian energy kind of way. That's the selfless from the selfish. Because, we can easily think, that we are the generation that we need to save, but we're actually talking about at this point, saving the future generations, making a world where they can feel safe as well. And these are people that don't exist yet. So we've got another one here, feeling at home anywhere we are, especially for people that have always felt they don't belong. That's another great one. So I'm hoping by reading these out that you can get a feeling for it's not always an obvious problem. It'll be specific to each of us. And that's the whole point. If we all came up with the same one, we'd all be working on the same problem, and all the other problems on Earth wouldn't have anybody working on them. And you all become the agent of that. You become the ambassador, the change maker, the trailblazer for that particular area. And that's what we're trying to do through my Metamorphosis program. Because what I discovered was that even though my first course was Discover Your Great Vision, we unwittingly uncovered all of the personality, energetic, beliefs, mindset, imposter syndrome, perfectionism, survival skills that were blocking us from achieving it. And I hadn't realized there would be as many of them as we've discovered. And that's what my healing processes are about. And that's what I've been sharing with you guys. So there's a lot of work that we have to do on ourselves. And as we do that work, we see more of our great vision. As we do some of the great vision, it highlights more issues within ourselves. And then we have to go through this iterative process. And as we do that, we keep stepping up and stepping up and stepping up until we transcend our pain and we are able to step into the trailblazer that we're meant to be. Now, for my work, I started off knowing that I could channel what I was calling divine intelligence. And then gradually over 4 years, I can now see that my work with divine intelligence really is a cognitive advancement. It's my strategic movement would be, say, well, now, because like I said, it's only now with AI, it's really obvious, but my strategic movement was how are we losing our organic creativity and our ability to value our unique way of thinking, which is crucial to our imagination right now and how we reimagine the world. But how are we losing that in a time when artificial intelligence is taking up more space in our lives? So that's my movement, is a cognitive advancement. How do we hold on to our organic cognitive abilities in a time when artificial intelligence has the ability to help us become less cognitively advanced, where we can become more reliant on the AI and not explore our own cognitive abilities? So if that's my big movement, then my tactical great vision is to help those impacted with job losses or relocation due to artificial intelligence. So basically help those that are impacted right now on the surface level, then to help them redefine their job title and to see themselves as a visionary and a trailblazer and what that means to them, so they can put different information on their CV that cannot be easily claimed by artificial intelligence. So can you see the difference between my movement and my great vision there? Because what that will allow people to do is to understand their value in the new world in a completely different way. And I've got some examples later that I'll share. So the absurdity of authoritarian and so-called traditional institute that Margaret shared, her vision is to change this in the field of sleep medicine. So you can see that those two might not make any sense at all. And yet that could be the very thing that is needed to break through. Because if we all have better sleep, then we all have better visions and we all have better energy for the day. There's just so many things, because lack of sleep makes us more prone to copy, to follow authoritarian rules. There's so much work that can be done just through sleep. So I want you all now to think about your great vision that we spoke about 2 episodes ago, and to think about your movement. And no matter how diverse they are, what is the thing that links them together? And that's your job. That is your only job, is working out what that one thing is that links those things together. Now, the one thing I have learned the hard way through burnout is that as a high achiever, if we're going to make such radical change in the world, we need to strengthen our foundations. If we want to fly higher, we need stronger foundations from which we can take off from. Because a lot of the struggles that you might have had up till now that are holding you back, that are keeping you playing small, that are putting you in the wrong job, that's lower than what you really should be doing, that is putting you in the wrong room, all of those things are holding you back from becoming a trailblazer. So it's really important that we learn how to break out of that small self into our higher self. So last month I spoke about how if we can connect to our true soul, authentic essence, which is a version of us full of our potential, like the beginner, young child, anything's possible, without any of our limitations, without any of the personality issues. If we can tap into that version of us and we can vision our great vision, as in we can see it, we can describe it, we can connect to it, that gives us an enlightened life path. If we can use our higher self and our high achiever thinking, because they're two different cognitive skills, then we start tapping into what I call the quantum human potential. Now, if we put the quantum human potential and an enlightened life path together, we become trailblazers, creating spine-tingling impact, not just for the world, but it also lights us up too. We're not here to sacrifice ourselves. We're here to grow, to expand, to become excited, to have an adventure, to embrace life, whilst also making the world a better place for other people to have the same experience. Now, how do we think that feels? Can you sense what that feeling might feel like? So Margaret is sharing the link between sleep and authoritarian is the awareness of possibilities to override the old order, which is also imagination related. I don't know how many people still have visioning dreams during sleep, but I don't think many do. So how does it feel to have quantum human potential and an enlightened life path? And the feeling that that combined together will give us the trailblazing, spine-tingling impact that lights us up. I always ask you how it feels, because if you could feel what I'm saying, it resonates more deeply in your body than just simply what I say. It feels like a unicorn ride into rainbow clouds. Can't feel it? Okay, that's fine, because that's what I'm hoping by the end of the session, you can feel it. For the people that are feeling it, we've been working on this all month in my membership. Feels like I'm excited to get to work. So yeah, there's an element of the impossible and excitement. So that's what we're trying to tap into, because often when we think about doing something big for the world, we feel dread or we feel heavy or we feel fear. We're trying to transcend all of that and turn it into excitement, adventure, and opportunity. Yes, Charles has said hello to me. Hello, Charles, I've got you. Thank you for saying hello on YouTube. So what I try to do is I want to try and teach people how to connect with their soul wisdom and their higher self, to work with their higher self in combination with their high achiever entrepreneurial abilities, so that they can navigate their current survival techniques of imposter syndrome, self-doubt, perfectionism, people-pleasing, and procrastination in innovative ways. Because there's no point trying to heal those things. They're there because there's a lack, there's something missing. When you put the something missing in, those things dissolve naturally. And what you get instead is a feeling of certainty and clarity and grace. And to do that, we need to be present. If we're always thinking about the past or worrying about the future, then we're not present. And when you're present and you can really enjoy the moment, then you feel more alive. and when you feel more alive, it's easier to dance with life, no matter what life throws at you. And then it's easier to achieve all the absurdly great things you feel called to do. And that's how we create impactful service for all corners of the universe, big and small. Now, do you notice I didn't say anything about working hard, having to work 10 hours a day? Sometimes it's all about the way we show up, not about what we do. So it's the being, not the doing. And again, we spoke a lot more about that in the last episode. But like I said, when I started this podcast, I didn't know where it was going to go. I didn't know what I was going to be talking about. I didn't know the point of it. I just knew that I was supposed to show up and share whatever White Star had for me to share. I felt very exposed. I felt vulnerable to attack, as you can imagine, turning up and sharing information like this. And each time I thought I knew what I was doing, I had to detach from the outcome and reevaluate. I had to believe that even if just one person saw one episode and had a big impact from it, then I was doing my great vision. If one person felt that they weren't alone on this planet, my great vision was already starting to manifest. And I don't think I would have got to this point of understanding if I hadn't have done those podcasts and created the Metamorphosis 12 classes that now go hand in hand with them. And the weirdest thing, which is going to sound impossible to some people, but that's what we're talking about, is achieving the impossible. I didn't know what problem I was actually solving by showing up. Now, how many of you could actually take action without knowing what problem you were here to solve? And by the way, a lot of my questions are aimed at you to say no. So don't feel bad if you don't get answers to these questions. The whole point of my work is to help you become radically truthful with yourself, because once you can name the things holding you back, then you can start healing them and move forward. So all I had was, I just simply saw a vision, and that vision was pretty vague. It was a bunch of people floating around a ballroom, looking like they had money. I think they were entrepreneurs supporting each other's projects, but there was a certain grace and peacefulness about them. And that's all I had to keep me going, because I thought, I want to hang out in that room with those people. That's what I want, is a room full of people like that. And that's what started my great vision. And each of you will have something like that that you might not have paid any attention to right now. So we got at least one person who can take action without knowing where it's going. So if we can tune into those visions, then we have to learn to value them and pay attention to them, because that is how our soul tells us what we're here to do. But the problem is that these concepts are really hard to sell. They're really hard to get buy-ins from your manager, from peers, from your friends, from your family. You know, you say, oh, I've got this great idea I want to do. And there's always somebody that'll say, don't be so stupid. That's too much hard work. You haven't got the skills for that, you know? So you have to be very creative in how you get other people to follow you. And that's one of the trailblazing skills. If you want others to walk in the unknown with you, then first you have to be comfortable to walk in the unknown on your own. But secondly, you have to have a way of being magnetic so other people follow you too. So who does your higher self really want you to be? And there's many books that will help you understand your personality and your faults and your issues, but who could you be as an agent of the universe, the heart and soul of the world, here to create solutions we need in this world, especially at this point of transhumanism, where people are getting more disconnected and more delusional. So if we can get more connection to our higher self, then we become more empowered. And that's part of my role, is to empower entrepreneurs and change makers to unlock their authentic quantum human potential. And it's multifaceted, which makes it even more complicated to understand. A lot of people have like one dominant side they think is them and don't pay attention to all the other parts. But also then you have to be able to take the reins of your wildest life and start co-creating it. And we've not been taught how to do that. We haven't been taught how to reimagine the future. We've often been shown the old constructs and how we fit into that. We haven't been shown how to up-level who we are. And the thing is, the more we step into who we really are, then a lot of the issues we've had, just again, like I said, dissolve. And life actually gets easier and becomes more in flow. So I find that what White Star has done for me is to break down the barriers of my business self, my spiritual self. I was teaching dance for a while, and my ability to channel higher consciousness and my cognitive machine learning, language understanding, artificial intelligence training, and pull it all together in a way that's suitable for entrepreneurial high achievers. And it is deep thinking work. I'm not going to lie, I'm a deep thinker. So if you're here, hopefully you don't mind deep thinking too. So this stage of the metamorphosis is really the end point of the program. It's the final chapter. But as we know, any evolutionary journey has no fixed destination. We just go round again and we go deeper and we discover more information as we progress around this cycle. So if this resonates, then all I ask tonight is that you be open to infinite possibilities, to allow the work we do tonight to cause ripples. You don't need to know how. That's the power you just hold. It's just your intention. Grab your journal. You'll need your oracle cards and a pen and blank paper. And I'm going to just invite you to reimagine how you can make a difference in the world by identifying your movement. And do share your takeaways as we go, because they always help us with input for other people to hear other people's language on how we describe this. So are we ready for that? Are we willing to go into this? So take a nice deep breath. Bring yourself present. And we use a technique that I call the instinct of God. I think of this because it activates our natural ability to head towards the light, no matter what challenges we find. And it involves finding your collarbone and tapping on the collarbone. And as you breathe in, I want you to breathe out through your nose and hum. I can't do it and be on the microphone. So as you breathe in, as you breathe out, you create this vibration low down in your throat. And as you're tapping your collarbone, you'll create this vibration. And it's the vibration that I find activates your body's natural ability to return to its original blueprint. And we're finding this is quite powerful, just through intention, whatever issues have been holding you back. If you ask this instinct of God, once you name it, to just correct it, you can do a lot of energy work this way without any complication. Which means then it just leaves us the really juicy bits that need a bit more effort then to work on. So you keep taking in some deep breaths. And today we're going to talk about the summary. So part one will be the summary and the topic and the theme of this month. Part two, we'll talk about what we've been doing to prepare for the outcome this month. Then part three, we'll look at the challenge. And this is the thing you'll want to work on. And the strength that you have to balance out the weakness. Because the strength and the challenge are two sides of the same coin. And then part four will be advice and next steps. And at that point, I'll also share some information about how to work with me. And the whole point of this session, and again, intention, is that you are going to create changes in who you are to align with this trailblazer archetype or skill set, however you want to use that. So keep doing the instinct of God, taking that breath in, and just reimagine every single cell of your body aligning with trailblazer energy. Allow it to dissolve anything holding you back so that you can just completely resonate with your true authentic essence. So as I said, last month we were exploring how to take action and feeling triumphant regardless of outcomes. Triumph is not associated with getting what you want or expect. There are bigger triumphs to achieve. As we climb this mountain of our great vision, we need to reimagine our path to success if we're wanting to find our conviction to keep climbing, and also using our higher self as the guide to climb the mountain. So now we're moving into this month. You're at the top of the mountain and you've got an idea of your great vision, but we're going to see how it fits into the bigger plan, how it's going to trigger humanity's evolution and bring heaven back down to earth. This is the Aquarian vision. And most of us are here at this time because we are here under this directive. The problem is that our personal trauma and pain will decide how well we're able to do this. And I know that people are thinking, how can we all be here to do this work when we have so many bad people too? But even narcissists can be here under this directive because their role is to awaken people to their wounds so that we can heal our wounds and therefore we can do our great vision. So we've got to just trust that there is this interconnectedness in life and that somehow this all works in some amazing way beyond what our human minds can currently perceive. And I like the concept that if the Earth can go around the sun and all the other planets can do this thing without any human intervention, then we have to question, what are we trying to control where life could actually do it better? We're going to do some body testing. For those that don't know how to do this, we just sit ourselves forward a little bit, not on our tailbone, and allow your body to go forward and backwards. So when I ask these questions, we want to use this technique to get answers, not your mind, because your mind tends to lie to you. It's stuck in cognitive entrenchment and biases. This goes beyond that. It connects more to your higher self. If you're not fully grounded, you might find this doesn't work. So just keep breathing and bring yourself present. A forward movement is a yes, a backward movement is a no. And share any comments. So put the number and your answer, but we're going to go for a percentage. So some people can work just with a number that pops into their head. And some people body test, is it between 1 and 50 or 50 and 100? So the first question we want to find out is, I am comfortable to be my authentic trailblazing self. 1 to 100. So put number 1 and then your percentage that you get. I am comfortable to be my authentic trailblazing self. That was quick, nee? I am comfortable to be my authentic trailblazing self, 1 to 100. And we'll remeasure these at the end. So this is about being comfortable. The words I choose are really important. So this is all about comfort. Whether you actually are is a different question. This is just the comfort, because we need to be comfortable before we actually become it. Cool. 47, 93, 100. Question number 2. So make sure you put the number 2 in front of it, otherwise we won't be able to match the numbers back up. I recognize futuristic ideas, 1 to 100%. I can recognize futuristic ideas, 1 to 100. Now, many of us might think we can, but body testing will tell you how aligned you really are with that. So I can recognize futuristic ideas as number 2. Now, if the number's higher than you expected, then that's great, because you probably haven't even recognized that you're doing that. So it's good if you get a nice high number, and then you can at least start going, oh, okay, now I know what I'm working with. Because quantum physics says once something's named, the power of the name, and once it's observed, it cannot behave any differently. So those are the kind of principles we're working on. Question 3. I can see the hopes of humanity, 1 to 100. I can see the hopes of humanity. So this is a kind of energy sensing as opposed to just physically seeing. So number 3, I can see the hopes of humanity. Get some good results here on Zoom. $84, $42. So on this question, if your results are a little low, it's usually because you've got your own pain and trauma blocking you from seeing the bigger picture. So that just explains how these questions help. And then the final question is, I can see the fears of humanity. That's number 4. I can see the fears of humanity. Interestingly, huh? The hopes were low, but the fears are high. Yeah. I should imagine many of us have got our fears up high because we're tuned into fear right now. The whole world has made us focus on fear more than the hopes. So, using the instinct of God and tapping on the collarbone and taking a deep breaths, just intend now that you gain clear vision or clear sensing of the fears, of the hopes, to feel comfortable as a trailblazer and to be able to see futuristic solutions. And yeah, energy work can be as simple as that. And if anything comes up when you're doing this work, make a note in your notebook because these could be areas that are important. Because I find most of our challenges are actually part of our great vision. So once we know what our challenges are, we can then look at how that also goes into our great vision. So, like I've said before, we're alchemists and we're putting together all these ingredients in our own unique way. We're experimenting what goes with what creates what dissolves what, so that we can actually see our great vision with different eyes beyond what the mind, our logical mind, can see. So because I work as heaven and earth, my physical from the entrepreneurial and White Star, then the energy that we need to be aware of this month is that we have a very strong Aquarian consciousness energy now. It's like an ocean. It's a little bit overwhelming right now. There's a lot of downloads. I've spent a lot of weekend. I haven't been very well, but a lot of the weekend I've had these really vivid dreams with vivid ideas, energy work in my sleep. This is the Aquarius consciousness. So if you're not used to working with or being able to sense cosmic energies, our bodies are impacted by neutrinos all the time. That's what quantum physics is all about. Just because, again, we can't see it, we can't describe it, doesn't mean it's not happening. So right now, you're in an ocean of Aquarius consciousness right now. Aquarius represents the water pourer, pouring down consciousness down to the earth. And it's inviting us to go for a swim, to dive into this intelligence, to pick out what is relevant to us and to expand our consciousness with it. And this time of year, we've also got the Sirius gateway. And we spoke about Sirius last month. It's just coming to its closure now, but I usually find at that point between July and August, I get a lot more downloads with my work than normal. And I think the reason is because we're getting ready to go into the next season of how do we grow these seeds. Now, here in the Northern Hemisphere, it's going to be winter, and I know it's going to be autumn for us, I know, and then winter, and then spring in the Southern Hemisphere. But it's still, I think there's still this overarching energy that gives us the time to plant, time to grow energies for us to follow. So the downloads that we get, because Sirius was really an important star in Egypt. So the Sirius energy really does give us this download moment of new consciousness for us to start thinking about what to do with our lives and how we can become trailblazers for the downloads that we've got. So sometimes when we get downloads, it's not about sharing them with everybody or some new information, it's about doing something with them. And somebody just typed in that they got downloads on the 31st of August last year. Yeah, that's the Sirius gateway activating. This is a mixture of the Sirius and the Lion's Gateway, they call it, but it's that period of time where Sirius is kind of starting its new year. The Egyptians used Sirius for their annual cycle before. Now we use the sun. They happen to be the same cycle, same number of days. But I did a whole episode on that because apparently we've gained a few days in our year. So what I'm getting from my downloads this weekend was that you have to make friends with your darkness. That's all I kept shown was not the void as in the place that we go for us to nurture our seeds. This was to finally give up the control that the darkness has over your life. And those are feelings of guilt, shame, regret, fear, because those are holding you back from seeing that they are also an important role to enlightenment. We can't have light without dark. And they're also preventing you from embodying your higher self. again, over the last few months, I've spoken a lot about how a higher self knowledge is actually, or I don't even know how to explain it, but the higher self is coming down and sitting with us now. So white star for me is more present, it's less up there and more here with me. So she is me and I am her. And there's this kind of feeling of safety in that. And that comes from releasing and purging. And I'm wondering if my cold is one of these purges manifested. So the more you can embody all parts of your ego with radical honesty, then you'll be able to navigate this Aquarius consciousness and embody more of your higher self guidance. So I think a few of us in my group, we've been modeling some ideas on how to work with the higher self in new ways, because this isn't just a trailblazing of normal technological processes. This is also trailblazing spiritual practices too. So we've been playing with that in our membership, and people are starting to notice how they've been getting some really radical downloads recently as well. So like I said, physical digesting of who we are becoming might be a problem. And when we digest consciousness, it's like eating food, so it can show up in tummy issues. We might be tired as we're dealing with the energy of past lives, of our pains, and seeing it all with new eyes so that we can transmute it into new insights. So all this purging energy obviously takes it out of our physical body as well. And I keep repeating, baby steps, only go as fast as you need to. Don't try and engage with these energies too much, because your body might not be ready for it. So divine timing, allow it to unfold. Don't force yourself to speed things up. Otherwise, you'll end up getting burnt out just from your spiritual ascension. Because there's no rush. Whatever's meant for you is still going to be there in your own timing. So let it unfold as it needs to. So has anybody had any of those physical symptoms? I know that's kind of what I've been suffering this weekend, and I find whatever I'm suffering, then I assume other people must be experiencing it too. Oh, some yeses coming in. That was a quick yes again. Yeah, yeah. I guess some people saying yes. Excuse me, I'm just going to cough. I seem to have gained a whistle. Who remembers the toot sweets from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? I think I've swallowed one overnight. So I think everybody on here seems quite quiet at the moment. Oh no, I've got some messages, sorry. Oh, hi. Dana's with us. How are you doing? Nice to see you too. And Charles is getting 100% for all the questions. Cool. Okay, so where are we at then? The theme. Let's look at the theme. Yeah, so Margaret's saying being stuck and waves of the past coming over me, that fits. It's coming over you to help you make peace with it. And it's kind of come up before, but it feels different this time. It really does feel like, I know, like this, the obvious song, isn't it? Hello, darkness, my old friend. It's that recognition as it not being something to fear, but it's an old friend coming back again to help you grow and to purify even more so that we can get more of the higher self in. So the theme this month is we have so much new consciousness arriving on the planet and for us that there is a potential for us to feel restless, unable to change our focus. Like we might be already thinking of one thing and this energy is pulling us back to something else. Or we may just feel completely lost. Like, where do I go? It's just like there's too many things to choose from. So that's the theme, which really fits anything that is like a large deposit of something. You know, it's always going to feel too much. On one hand, the movement is exhilarating, but to navigate such sorry, my tongue's not working, but to navigate such vastness, you'll need some sort of clear goals and intentions and your higher self. Otherwise, you'll drown. So whenever we're working with these kind of energies, we need to be aware that we need a practice or a ritual or a process to help us go through these. So how many of you can feel the things shifting again now? Can you feel that there's been some big shift over the weekend? Even if you don't know what it is, you just feel like something's changed. Have you woken up thinking, oh, that's not a problem anymore, or I don't want to do this work anymore? Since this morning, yeah. Again, it all depends on where we're at as to when we receive it. So there's no timing on this. I'm usually a couple of months ahead. So if you're not experiencing it now, it might not happen for a few months yet, and it might come through later for some people. So how does it feel when you feel this shift? Because that recognizing that is a really important skill to have, to recognize when a shift has happened so you can take advantage of it. A relief and lightness. Sometimes it comes up as confusion too. It's not always a positive thing, but I like the relief and lightness. Sometimes I wake up and I kind of feel like my heart has just exploded and I don't know why. Heartgasms, I like to call them. You think, oh, something big must have happened. And other times I just cry and it's like, oh, okay, something must have happened. It just shows the ways that energy can shift through our bodies when we're sleeping and we don't even realize it. So the energy this month is about Aquarius. And as quantum humans, we're here to show a new way of being. And this is part of my 12 superstructures that we're learning. So this is all about being a trailblazer and discovering our movement. So I thought I'd do a small visualization to help us connect to a little bit of our movement. We've already spoken about claiming something earlier on, just an idea of what your movement is, but let's see if we can dig into that a bit deeper. So just close your eyes. And then we go in through the heart. And inside your heart, you'll find yourself sitting on a cloud. And you're floating on this cloud, and you can look down on the earth and look down on humanity. And because we have all of the universe within our heart, that's why we go into the heart. We find ourselves sitting on a cloud looking down on the whole of humanity. And maybe you can notice little sparks of light around the planet. Some of them are light, which represent the hopes and dreams. Some of them are dark, representing the woes, tears, and sighs. And remember, we're just observing because some of us are empaths. I don't want you trying to transmute all of this. You're just watching and observing. So if you need to imagine that you're in a bubble to stop this energy being sucked up into you, then do that as well. I don't want to trigger some tears now if I can help it. So as you're looking down at these lights, the dreams, the hopes, the woes, the tears, the sighs, what pops up first? What's the first feeling that you get in your mind? It might be a feeling, a color, a sensation, an emotion. And as you sit on this cloud, imagine you are a maker of Earth. That somehow in a past life you were in the team that designed Earth, that designed humanity, that designed how souls enter the body, that designed the karmic experience, the technology of an ascension. Somehow you were in that team. And as you sit there on your cloud, you go, I see this problem. I know how to fix that. What comes to your mind? Does this feel like your movement? Write it down, whatever you've just gotten, because again, it isn't always obvious to what you told me a movement was in the beginning. For those on Zoom, we'll do a compare and contrast later. But hopefully this has brought you a more subtle insight into what your movement is. Now you can use your body testing to verify if this is your movement. And be aware that if you have fear of this for any reason, then you may get a no when it really should be a yes. So sometimes we have to do 100% truth and reality to try and help tune into that. But know whatever you're seeing now has a relevance in your movement somehow, even if it's just a clue. And we're looking for an area where you can bring more love, joy, and passion to the earth. And where we can alleviate an unnecessary pain. Now, this is just a small peek at it. I'm going to be doing a masterclass on this separately for you guys to join. And we can then explore if this is a philosophical shift, an artistic or cultural innovation, if it's scientific or technological advances, if it's political or religious or social changes. Just get a feeling for what this movement might be for you right now. Remembering sometimes it's just simply the right to a healthy, fulfilling lifestyle. That is a movement. It doesn't have to always be poverty, world peace, global warming. As you sit on this cloud and you look out beyond the earth, you might see threads reaching into the past and the future. This just shows you how long you've been working on this problem, because you might have been working on this from the beginning of time. That's how important this is. The main feeling I want you to feel right now is that whatever this is waiting for you to clarify it, is waiting for you to claim it, because it is very, very, very important. And it's that feeling that this is such an intricate web of the divine plan that you're playing your part in, that it encourages you to take action and to make more time to uncover what your great vision is so that you can help the world. Now, one thing we're bad at as a trailblazer is just doing things without understanding or at least reviewing what we've done, and then we miss out the retrospective knowledge of it. So we want to be able to do it and then consciously understand it later. So bring yourself back and let me know what you were sensing. If you've got any idea of your vision, then let me know. Or should I say movement. So like I said, I started my movement without really understanding the problem I was solving. but I saw the vision, I saw the download, and I could understand that that was something my heart desired. It's what I wanted to be included in. It's how I wanted my work life to look, especially after I'd had, as a founder of a startup, a really horrible time seeing the darker side of human leadership and relationships. I thought this can't be it, but I saw a really interesting post the other day that there are as many, I think they use the word psychopaths, but let's just use the word narcissists, but there are as many narcissists in leadership roles as there are in prison. And that kind of makes sense to me. They are a similar skill set, just one might be more adaptive to work environment and others have found a slightly non-legal version to do what they do. But it's a similar skill set if you think about it. Now, depending on where you are through your cycle, you might get different messages. Like if you've done all of my metamorphosis, then you'll get a movement. If you're still learning some things you need to know before you get your movement, then maybe what you're seeing there, because some people are saying step by step. So think of step by step as your higher self trying to coach you through a fear, because at the moment you're too fearful to see what the size of your full movement is at the moment. So if you can integrate using the instinct of God, the step by step, then you might find your movement shifts as well as you do that. As I said, I'm doing this, but what I found is without the healing, without the personality recalibration and lots of other stuff, which we'll talk about later, then your vision isn't always, or your movement isn't always as obvious until those things are corrected. So I mentioned that there were 3 things that high achievers will suffer from, and these are what we covered in the masterclass this month. So being ahead of your time. Have you ever felt like you don't quite fit into traditional roles or expectations and that you are meant for something more? That's a sign that you're here as a trailblazer ahead of their time. When you encounter a problem, do you naturally look for connections between different ideas, people, and systems? Or do you fall back on what you know? And if you get strange looks from family, friends, and clients, then you're probably ahead of your time. And this comes with its own set of unique challenges to be ahead of your time. And what I find is that people are generally likely to give up rather than stick out. That little spark that's come in, we haven't got the courage to develop it into something. Therefore, we park it as a fantasy, and then we don't carry on with it because basically we let our ideas rot on a shelf because there's no example of it in the world. So, if nobody had ever flown an aeroplane and somebody came up with an aeroplane idea, you can imagine the issues that would bring. People would go, but people don't fly, birds fly. What are you doing? You must be crazy. I'm not investing in that. Yeah. But somebody has to have that crazy out of the box idea to progress humanity. So just because there's no example of whatever it is you're seeing and feeling right now doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It means you're ahead of your time. And then there's the struggle of how do I develop something that has no reference? Like, how do I explain an aeroplane to somebody who's never seen an aeroplane before? They're going to go, why do you want to fly like a bird? What's the point of that? Even I think I saw once a story about suitcases having wheels. I thought this was amazing. These are the kind of things that fit into my domain of great vision. So apparently when they developed wheels for the suitcase, nobody understood what the point of it was because men carried women's suitcases and they were strong enough to carry them. So why do they need wheels? And in fact, there was some backlash because what are men going to do if they're on wheels and ladies can carry their own baggage and suitcases, But somebody decided that wheels ought to be put on a suitcase. Never been done before. And actually now, where would we all be without them? So these are the kind of thinking, but also now, how do you sell that concept to somebody? How do you get that vision and movement moving? And I think there's been several times for me where I've missed opportunities because I didn't trust myself enough or believe in what I could see enough. A lot of the time I felt it was common sense, when in reality it was a really amazing opportunity. And if I'd grasped them and run with them, even if I didn't know how to, if I just decided I was going to run with them, it would have brought a lot more abundance my way. Because I find that when we're really working on something that is in service of the world, the universe rewards us and compensates us because it is helping other people on the planet. And the world wants us, the universe wants us to help other people. So it's going to reward us and compensate us to help us fund our projects to ensure that we're taken care of. Yeah. So as people are saying, yes, since childhood, felt an outsider, always looking for patterns and systems, always been ahead of my time. Needs to be another person who recognizes the out of the box idea. Yeah. Well, we're trying to learn how not to need another person, but typically in my group, when we all get together, then anything goes. We try not to push anything down until we've explored it. Sometimes they're clues, sometimes they're ideas, but anyway, the importance is to spend time together discussing them and exploring them. And because we're tending to be more spiritual in our approach, then those are some of the hardest. Like coming up with a new product like Wheels on a Suitcase is a little easier than saying there's a new energy or a new feeling or a new thought or a cognitive method. Those are much harder because they're not so tangible. But again, this is what we're here to learn. This is part of our growth, is learning how to do this. And AI actually helps us get the words to some of this. If we can channel the higher dimensional information, we can use AI to help us define it, but not using AI to get the ideas in the first place. So the second thing I spoke about was walking in the unknown. And when you do that, it can be hard to find your direction. You don't know which way to go. And we spoke a lot about that when we spoke about the hermit and how the hermit works and how we can use our higher self to guide our steps in the darkness. But also, we have to have at least the mindset that when we're faced with uncertainty or big changes, that we feel excited by the possibilities. Are you drawn to creative, intuitive, or spiritual practices as a way to understand yourself? I think people who are ahead of their time spend a lot more time in self-discovery because they don't fit in. So they're trying to understand what's different about them when their differences are really their magic. So the problem is not the walking in the unknown. The problem is using our personality and intellect as our guide whilst walking in the unknown, because they're not the right cognitive processes for that kind of work. The fear of the unknown comes from your inability to connect to a higher consciousness, to connect to the part of you that loves the unknown, which is your higher self. At least that's what I've been learning. You need a mirror no matter what you do. The wheels on a suitcase is as out of the box as anything. Yeah, definitely. But sometimes, we need somebody to point this out to us to see, the changes that brought, the knock-on effects that nobody's even probably analyzed because it seems so simple and so average and so normal and everyday now. So walking in the unknown really gets fixed, or the fear of walking in the unknown gets fixed once you really connect to your high self. And that's what White Star did for me. She kind of guided me through the unknown. And what I saw the other side was quite amazing. And the final thing we mentioned for high achievers struggling with being a trailblazer is walking alone. That rejection and the lack of support. So it's a bit like being ahead of your time. But this is more about how do you keep yourself motivated in the face of criticism, of rejection? How do you keep moving forward? And this is where your movement comes in, because if you really believe in your movement so much, then you're more willing to innovate. You're more willing to be somebody that wants to leave a legacy, even if you're not sure what that looks like yet. Then that's a benefit of being this kind of person, but it's also a sign that you're a trailblazer struggling. And we sometimes have to accept that this is a lonely path until you find other trailblazers who get the process. I'd say that the trailblazer mindset is quite unique and can only be really accessed by those who've transcended their trauma and fears. And we can imagine how many people are suffering with trauma and fear right now. Eventually, people catch up. But then often you find they think it was their idea because You planted the seeds that helped them eventually cotton on to what was being shared. So we need the resilience, we need the forgiveness, I guess, that, sometimes our ideas don't get the momentum and somebody else might pick them up instead. That can be a role sometimes, that we're just here to plant seeds, not to actually fulfill some of these tasks. But again, our higher self knows which is which. It can help us and guide us through that process. But the simple thing from all of being ahead of your time and your ideas is you have to do something with them, regardless of how insignificant they are. And this is where it is a feeling or a calling, as opposed to a clear project plan. And in a way, getting to this point is a really good ending. In alchemy, there's this Ouroboros, which is the snake kind of biting on its own tail, completing a perfect circle. And this 50th episode kind of fits that, because the very first episode was about how we can prevent our creativity being lost to AI and obey the calling of our soul. So that was the first set, which was done in over 4 weeks instead of one big one. So that's a perfect ending to lead back into the first episode of these podcasts. So that just gives you some of the challenges of being a trailblazer. So I'm hoping when you recognize the challenges, sorry, hang on. So I'm hoping when you recognize some of the challenges of being a trailblazer, you can also recognize the benefits of being a trailblazer too. Because sometimes as humans, we focus on all the issues and we forget to take advantage of the benefits and our strengths instead. And I think it's more important than ever not to do this on our own, because each of us can help trigger an insight, help another person describe their great vision in a way, through this synchronous conversation that I've been speaking about as well since the beginning of the year. So let's just recap the theme. We're here at a time of great change. There's something new and unusual opening for those ready to listen to a new consciousness. We're having our minds recalibrated and our higher self embodied. That might sound really odd, but hey, I'm a trailblazer. You'll all be talking about this in 6 months' time. And that's my calling. So the question is, who will join me in exploring these kind of possibilities? Just like the old alchemists of old who experimented to understand their emerging world. I'm just inviting you all to do the same in this new emerging consciousness and see what it has to show you for your great vision, and to create many unique movements using your higher self to guide you so that we can all walk boldly in the unknown. I kind of want to say badly, boldly and badly. I often imagine when I talk about walking boldly in the unknown, I imagine sort of there's this, my mum gave me like a coaster, and it's got this lady on who's got a champagne in one hand and strawberries in the next, and she's kind of like sliding through life. That's how I want us to be trailblazers. Doing it in that kind of really outrageous way. And let's see what we have to offer so that our future selves will thank us for it. This is a really good example of ahead of a time. So Margaret said when she was 10, she wanted to create plasters for children with pictures of teddy bears and flowers on them. And I'm guessing they didn't exist then. My mother wrote to Johnson & Johnson, and they wrote back and said it was a silly idea. Now everybody's got images on their plasters. Exactly. That's exactly it. It's just a shame that at 10 you couldn't go and do it yourself. But that's an example of being ahead of your time for sure. And I'm sure many of us could think of examples like that if we really go back to our childhood and think about the things we wanted to do. So what preparation have we got that we can draw on this month, and what outlook can we expect? So I think there's been quite a lot of talk about triumph, stepping into the energy of life is glorious, and all these kind of things we've spoken about over the last few months. And really what it's trying to do is to teach you to walk life like an adventure, to enjoy life, the smooth and the bumpy. Life is always moving and activating and changing, and there'll always be new experiences. So you might as well be an adventurer, because if you go on holidays, everybody's excited when something doesn't go right and they all rally together. We really feel enthused and thriving in adventurous situations. We've just forgotten how to bring that to our everyday. We've forgotten how to see things with new eyes, the things that are around us all the time that have become like part of the furniture. We forget to see the gold in our challenges, and we miss the opportunities of mundane things that could bring something new, or somebody you overlooked that has something important to share with you. So the preparation is this ability to see things afresh with new eyes from a new perspective. And you can think of this now as the new eyes are referring to us when we've embodied our higher self. Because when I started working with White Star, my whole perception changed. The way I looked at things, the way I dealt with things, the stories, the narratives all changed. And that's like an adventure, and I'm changing all the time. I'm not who I was at the beginning of the year or a year ago. So that's the perspective that we want to be able to draw on. And this involves, like I said before, spiritual insights as well as practical ones. So just notice what you've been given as preparation for this month's energy changes. Now, if you're not used to tuning into higher consciousness, you might not have noticed it, but you can always go back after this and meditate and ask what that was, and ask for a sign or pull a card to see what you missed. The outlook for this month is the energetic stabilization of your higher self, which will bring new, unique skills, talents, and a better sense of who you are, which means you'll also understand more about what you're here to do. And ultimately, we're all here to alchemize spirit and matter. You know, coming into a physical body was our spirit coming down to blend with the physical body to create these human beings that we are. And we're learning to progress that journey by bringing more of the spiritual into the human body. But equally, we're here to bring spirit into everything we do, everything we create, everything we generate on this planet, even in money. You know, everything needs to have that spirit alchemized into it. And we've been going through this huge energetic upgrade all year, but it's going to bring a strong and a deep feeling of growth that our soul really desperately wants. And remember, this higher self isn't about losing our individuality. It's about experiencing it as part of us, just like our higher self is experiencing the human as part of it. So it's not replacing each other. They're kind of like just different lenses through which to see things. And you may be noticing that you're remembering memories from a time of a highly advanced civilization and your power to co-create a different experience on this earth. So again, they may seem like dreams or futuristic dreams, but just, again, include those in your vision because they are clues. And as you're growing stronger, you're able to take your place as trailblazer for the benefit of all humanity. So that's the preparation and the outlook. So they're quite simple, the main kind of theme once we go past the main theme. So that's an adventurous mindset is needed as preparation so that we can remember who we really are. So the next part 3, is the challenge and the strength for this month. So the challenge is the shape-shifting. We're not very good at change as humans. As you may have experienced from when you've tried to change your diet or integrate new habits or new ways of thinking, we're not good at it at all. And we need to become more like water. We need to become more mentally fluid with no fixed expectations, the ability to allow ourselves to change and grow in an adventurous way, being excited about who we're becoming and like doing all the things necessary to become it. Because what if the person you overlooked as mundane is actually you? So what if the person that you've overlooked is as mundane or not important or not relevant is actually you? So now we often overlook ourselves as being important in the grand scheme of things because we don't think we have all the abilities or we've got so many restrictions. And this month we said in the preparation, we needed to look at things with new eyes. So that mundane person that they said could be an opportunity, could be yourself. So we need to turn the mirror back on ourselves and see what's inside us that we've taken for granted so that we can value it more and then position it as a skill that we need for trailblazing. Now, what if you embodied the fact that you can flow more easily if you changed to the circumstances rather than constantly fighting to keep the circumstances the same, to keep them the same as the way as you want them to be and as how you like it? What if we're meant to flow with the changes as opposed to resist them? Because there are unlimited possibilities ahead. What can happen will happen, and we have to be ready to shapeshift to be able to take advantage of them. We need to be able to allow the possibilities to unfold, because sometimes we settle and we try and keep ourselves safe. We stay in a job that we don't like because it's safe, and we're preventing that growth. We're preventing ourselves from becoming who we need to be a trailblazer. But if we could just allow life to happen and imagine traveling with the energy as opposed to against it, adjusting your attitude and actions to agree with what's changing around you, just like you change your socks every day, it becomes that normal to you to shape shift and keep altering who you are. Because we typically tend to fight anything new in our lives and demand that things change to meet what we think they should be. Now imagine if we took all that energy that we're fighting with and demanding that everything works for us and we applied it to a world problem instead. I think just how, when I talk about shape shifting, I'm not just talking about losing your core self. Our core self is meant to shape shift. But even when our core self changes, we hold on to it and cling on to it for dear life. And then we don't let it move into the next version of itself. As the world around us changes, we try to freeze it and hold it. So generally, we're always in freeze rather than in flow. And I've said this before, it's kind of like we're holding onto a tree and we're trying to reach for something with the other hand and complaining how we can't reach it. But if we let go, we'd be able to reach it. But we'd rather hold on to the tree than let go because typically our personalities, our bodyguards, are always trying to keep us safe, keep us small, keep us away from things that it thinks might be too dangerous for us. But we're going to find out what each of your individual challenges are regarding shape-shifting by pulling a card now. So if you guys want to pull a card. So this will be your particular challenge with shape-shifting, with this being fluid, being able to keep growing. Charles was saying narcissists create problems just to watch others solve them. Kind of, but we can put a better spin on it than that. Narcissists typically trigger healing moments. And then once we've healed, we can move away from the narcissist. We all got a card to help you understand what might be holding you back from this really fluid. Like when White Star comes in, I change, but I don't resist it. I allow her to guide me, to tell me new things, to be something different. I did resist in the beginning, but now it's much more fluid. She comes when I need her. I become more of myself when I need to be. Like sometimes she delivers a message, like a book title, and then I have to write it as my higher self. So there's this real interchange between who's in the driving seat. We've spoken before whether it's personality or soul, and that's changing, and the problem is we tend to get stuck in, oh, it's personality or soul. I could have just left it there. But then I learned there was the higher self, which the concept existed, but I didn't see how that was different to the soul. And I looked up loads of different people's explanations, and there wasn't a difference. But now I can sense the difference. And White Star is a combination of soul wisdom and higher self. And it's now whether it's my personality, whether it's my creativity, whether it's my higher self. I'm kind of changing who I am and shape-shifting by who's in the driving seat at any one moment. So the cards that you're pulling will help you understand what's preventing you going into that flow. It could be the one that you've already pulled when we did this in class, yes. But for others, it's going to be new for them. So we've got miracles and trust. So believing in miracles and trusting yourself, that could be a reason why you wouldn't shapeshift. I'm not sure what Master Hilarion and Archangel Raphael represent. Can you give me some words for that rather than just the card name? Yeah, so you're just going back to trust. You can imagine, how we anchor in, like I said, we become entrenched in things, entrenched in who we are, entrenched in our narratives, entrenched in our beliefs. And this prevents us from becoming something new. So that takes trust and courage. So this isn't about forcing change on ourselves. This is just allowing ourselves to be multidimensional in all aspects of our life. Cool. So Emma's card was power of the mind for healing purposes. Yeah. Because Aquarius is all about mind, like mind traveling and visualizing and visioning and in reimagining. So that would be believe in your power of your mind and then allow yourself to shapeshift accordingly. And caging, a heart with a key. Well, all of the higher self energy comes in through the heart. So allowing your heart, because if you've been hurt in life and you're got trauma and pain around the heart, then that breaks that connection to your higher self. So that would make sense. Speak the right words, silence the ego and push the mute button. Yeah. We spoke about that last time, that we have to sometimes silence the ego and personality in order to push through and hear the higher messages. Nice. And self-inventory, yeah. Understanding your powers, because the more resilient we feel and the more capable we feel, the easier it is for us to flow through life. Because I've said this in many of the episodes, you're given the same, whatever the challenge is, you've got to believe that you've been given the solution as part of the problem. So our strength is trust the timing. So we had a couple of trust cards come up. You're here for a reason, that things are unfolding in exactly the right timing. Rather than forcing forward, reevaluate who you are first, because sometimes reevaluating who you are is the key for you to unlock your future. When you can upgrade yourself and heal your pain, the future just naturally unfolds in front of you. Sometimes if the future's not unfolding as it should, it's because you're not aligned with it, or you have to have a certain lesson or something. All of this kind of fits. You don't have to fight it so much. The more we can relax into it, then the easier it becomes. So sometimes mentioned this before, but I don't know if it's on here or in my workshops. You can imagine that you're on a tram line, that you've caught some train. And the question is, are you on the right train? Or did you catch the first train that came by, hoping, because a lot of people were on it, that that would be the trendy train to be on? And we do that because we didn't want to wait, maybe, or we thought that it was the popular train, so we needed to be on that particular train. But what if that train was the wrong train, that it was the wrong level, the wrong destination, that that train was the train of hard work when you're here to actually do things in a much easier way? So the reason you get on that train or the wrong train in the first place is because of our own internal thoughts, beliefs, and fears. So if we allow impatience, comparison, paranoia, competition, then, we allow those in to influence us, then we're going to get on the wrong train. We're going to do what we think everybody else is doing, which we can't do as a trailblazer. Trying to be like somebody else means you can't be a trailblazer. You need to be yourself now. And that's really important because the advice was being comfortable with yourself. So the challenge is that we need to have the ability to keep changing and shape-shifting so that you can align more with who you're meant to be. And that it's time to break the imposter cage apart so that your true human potential can step up and step out. Your soul loves to grow and dance with life. Your personality likes to keep you small and encaged. Your soul knows the bigger plan. Your personality doesn't understand anything beyond its pain. And that's the battle that we're always fighting and we're trying to overcome. So it's time now to shapeshift into who we could be when we've got the higher self connected. Oh, another card, birds of a feather. Sharing community, sense of belonging, understanding concepts. Yeah, that's very much like, the next steps are talking about finding communities like that. So that would fit really well. I think, to nurture a trailblazing type of person is different than just simply a business mastermind. It's a different skill set. It's a cognitive skill set as opposed to developing a business. And I think all my work is about the cognitive development, like a self-development, as opposed to business training, which is why I first got a bit confused in what I was doing. It's not about helping people set up businesses. I'm just doing the cognitive work so that you can, if you wish, set up your own business afterwards. So the final part is the advice is to feel comfortable being your true authentic self. Simple, but also probably the whole meaning of life. It's, yes, we all want to be authentic and truthful to ourselves, but for some reason, humanity hasn't mastered that skill. But that was the kind of concept behind my Metamorphosis program. So I thought the answer, because this was just a word that I heard or a sentence that I heard, so there was no more information on it other than what it meant to me. So I thought, well, if I share the steps that I've derived from my Metamorphosis program to you, then you'll see the steps that are needed to become more authentic. So the first step, because I've basically got 13 steps, one for each of the letters of Metamorphosis. So the M of Metamorphosis stands for mindset reprogramming of the ego. So we have to dissolve the ego and reinvent who we are at an ego level, which is our thoughts and our beliefs and our archetypes and our identities. That all has to be recooked or dissolved and then remade in order to free us up. Then we have to be embodied. We have to be present. We have to reevaluate our self-worth. Then we need to learn how to be truthful, how to express our soul, how to have authentic communication. The next step then is autonomous presence and energy management. A lot of us fear losing our energy or being drained, so we have to learn how to manage our energy, how to understand energy attacks, how to feel the energy behind words, how to feel comfortable in our skins, to feel comfortable on the planet. Then we have magnetic leadership, learning to be the CEO of your life, learning to feel comfortable in a leadership role, taking up space. Then we have omnipotent, I can't say this, omnipotent? No, omnipotent, I think is what I feel is said. Getting to know your higher self and your divine self. So this is the starting now to connect to your higher self and how to use that. And that also plays a part in the soulful communication. Then we have to learn to make resolute decision making. This is where we make decisions that we can stand by, that we feel comfortable with without the fear of missing out. Then we have to learn to alchemize pain, so pain alchemy. And then we have to learn how to access higher consciousness and our great vision. O is for overcoming our fear of taking action. And S, where we're at now, stepping into being a trailblazer. Once we've been through that cycle, we then have to go into a life review, and we kind of do an investigative, a deep dive into our life and what we've achieved and what we haven't from a growth perspective, not from a success perspective. And then finally, we start the following cycle with a intentions and a multidimensional goal setting. So we start to see ourselves beyond our current experience so that we can start creating a different experience on the next iteration. So those are the 12 steps that we go through to learn the skills that we need to become a trailblazer. So that just gives you an idea of how many aspects we kind of approach from multiple dimensions to get us into the right state to be courageous enough to do what we're here to do. So how does the great vision fit into our everyday life? So obviously, well, I hope you all know I have ME/CFS, which impacts me quite badly at the moment. It got better and it's just come back worse. And it's my great vision that encourages me to speak to you guys and to show up and share what I share. But if you're worried about an illness and who you are and what you're going to become, that's my experience that I've been learning to handle. So in that context, my great vision is about helping people understand their worth, that it isn't measured by how much they do or how many hours they work. This is what my experience has been. But it's about who they are and their unique light that they bring the world. Even if illness means you have to slow down or do less, it doesn't take away your value or your ability to make a difference. So I want people like me who've struggled with work and issues with health to know that this time can be an invitation to reconnect with what truly matters to you and to listen to your body and to honor your own pace. And sometimes when we're forced to step back, we actually discover new strengths and new ways of expressing ourselves, and even new ways to help others. And that can be through creativity, kindness, or just simply by sharing your story. So that's one of my stories. And I try to inspire other people to see that even small actions and gentle ideas and quiet moments can have a powerful impact. And you don't have to fit into anybody else's expectation, that just my presence and showing up, like I said, if one person is impacted by my podcast, sharing my experiences and my unique perspective are needed now more than ever. So for me, illness was a chance for me to redefine my contribution and what it looks like, and to trust that I was still important, or I still had something important to share with the world. So if anybody is struggling with burnout or fear of burning out or illnesses, then maybe you can resonate with that. Let me know in the chat if that resonates. So another example is if you're worried about job loss due to AI. So mine wasn't quite job loss, mine was more retirement due to ill health. But again, my great vision is about helping people see that their true value isn't defined by a job title or the work that they've always done. But again, it's about who they are and the unique gifts they bring the world. Even if AI is changing the workplace and taking over certain jobs, it's only taking over job titles. It doesn't mean you're being replaced as a person. In fact, this is a chance to rediscover what makes you special, to reconnect with your creativity, your intuition, your ability to connect with others, and your willingness to try new things. And I want these people to know that they have the skills and strengths. You might not realize it yet, but this moment of change is actually an opportunity to explore new directions. And it's an opportunity to learn and experiment and trust that even your smallest ideas or actions can have a big impact. You don't have to have it all figured out right now. All that matters is your ability to step into the unknown, to be curious, and to believe that you can create something meaningful. Maybe something that hasn't even existed before. So my vision for those people who are worried about their jobs with AI is to inspire them to see that this transition is not an ending, but it's the beginning of a new chapter where you can define your own purpose, follow what excites you, and know that you still have so much to offer the world, maybe even more than ever. Is that you? I'm hoping by giving these analogies that you can see how this work fits in. So this one was me worried about retirement, because when I got sick, I thought I had to retire. So helping people realize that their value isn't tied to a job title or a career, but to who they are and, again, their unique gifts they bring the world. Even as you step into retirement, you still have so much to offer. Your experiences, your wisdom, your creativity, your ability to see things differently. I want people who are worried about retirement to see that this is a next chapter as an opportunity to explore new possibilities and to reconnect with dreams or interests that they might have set aside, and to make an impact in ways that you might not have imagined before. Again, it's not about having all the answers or a perfect plan. It's about being willing to try new things, to be curious, and to trust that even small actions can create meaningful change. So I want these people to recognize that retirement is not an ending, but it's just a new beginning again, a chance to be a trailblazer in your own life. And probably the first opportunity you'll have to step back into what lights you up and to feel into your own presence and your contribution in a different way than the job that you've been doing up till now. But you still matter, and the world around you still needs you. So that's another interpretation of my great vision. So maybe there are people who fall into that category. And because one of my clients has just had a baby, then I thought I'd add this one as well. So when it comes to having children, sometimes women have to decide between work and being a parent. Maybe the fathers have to give up the work, but there's usually a point where you wonder if you're going to be fulfilled being a parent on its own or whether you still need the work. So this one's for them. So my great vision is about helping people see that their value isn't tied to a job title or a paid check, but to who they are and the unique gifts that they bring every part of life, including at home. And we can say this for everybody. We all need to recognize the value of community. But being a stay-at-home parent is not a step back. It's a powerful choice to shape the future in a different way. I want you to know that raising children, creating a loving home, and nurturing the next generation is some of the most important work there is. Your creativity, intuition, and ability to connect are needed now more than ever. Even if the world doesn't always recognize it, the impact you have on your family and your community is huge. And Jenny's going, yes, so important. So my vision is to inspire you to trust your instincts, to bring your whole self into this new chapter, and to know that your presence and your love are making a real difference. You don't have to fit into anyone else's definition of success. This is your opportunity to redefine what it means to contribute, to lead, and to create change, starting from right where you are, which is at home. And this kind of resonates for me because when I took acting classes to try and get me over my fear of being on camera, and I never thought I could be an actor, although apparently I wasn't that bad at it. But the one thing they said to me that really struck me was that seeing me on camera just made them feel held and loved. And that's how I got to taking the first step to being seen, was that if all I could do was make people feel at home and feel comfortable and loved, then again, didn't matter what I said or how well I said it or how crazy was what I said was, that would encourage people to be themselves, then my work was done. So that's a few different perspectives of different situations in life that we can be at and how our great vision is important to understand as we go through these transitions in our life. Sorry, done really well. I've been holding it in. So I feel the answers to becoming a quantum human and a trailblazer is what I've been working on in my metamorphosis. And I call it metamorphosis because this is a radical change in who we are, not just a transformation. And this can only happen when we let go of the past and discover who we really are, what our potential is, and to do it free of a job description, to have that completely removed from your vocabulary so that you can redefine who you are. And as you unveil this great vision, definition of who you are, and connect to your higher self, and overcome all your survival skills, and start living life as an adventure, then you start to dance with life and embrace life more. So I've been building this program for 4 years now, and I think it's ready to take flight in its full form. It's been experimental up till now, and I've had a few founding members that have been working through it with me. So I'm going to be launching a masterclass of this revolutionary program to help people understand the stages that I've just discussed. And I like to think of it as an alchemical process. That's one of the best words I've discovered recently. It's experimental, experiential. It's about thought leadership. It's about thinking differently, putting things together in ways that are different, and learning how to handle those 12 steps that I've described. So if you're interested in joining me for this free masterclass, then you can email me. And it's going to be a limited number for the actual course. I want to keep it small because I think the more personal it is, the easier it is to work with people, uncovering their great vision and discovering their potential. But effectively, I'm looking for people to really step into the unknown, become alchemists, to be self-learners, to be courageous. And you can join me in this free masterclass to see if this is for you. So my emails are all changing at the moment, but you can send it to White Star Soul God. No, I think it's just shows that I don't remember which email I'm using now. Oh gosh. I think I've got my email later, so I'll let you know that then. I know that's awful, but forgive me, I'm not feeling very well today. I can hardly remember what I'm doing when I do these. White Star takes over. So like I said, the next steps is the spiritual community, creating alchemical laboratories where we can work on identifying who we are using all the elements that I provide, the things I've learned, with you combining them in different ways so that each person forms their unique experience from each of the masterclasses. That way, then we've got this kind of more random experience where we get different people participating in the experience as well, rather than it just being a formal teaching. And we all learn from each other that way, including myself. So if that sounds interesting to you, then do let me know. So your mantra for this month is, as a trailblazer, I innovate, design, and sustain life. I alchemize the ocean of galactic consciousness from multiple dimensions to flow in service of humanity's highest vision. So just let that run through your body, tap on the instinct of God, and intend that that's your intention. Now you might be thinking, what did she say? If you like the sound of it, just intend that you align with this great vision, that you're here to bring higher consciousness down for the benefit of humanity. So I just want to thank everybody for joining me every week on these, every month, I should say. It started off weekly and became monthly. These podcasts will now only be part of my main membership. As you can see, they're big, they're almost workshops in themselves. So that's going to go into my main membership now. I'm not going to be doing them free and live. I will be putting highlights out. So keep in touch on my YouTube channel, and I'll be sharing shorter content there. But if you want to have that live experience with me and embrace your quantum human abilities, then either consider joining my membership, this Metamorphosis program, which we'll talk about more during the masterclass, or consider a one-to-one package with me where we spend 6 months really delving into the things holding you back from becoming your true potential. So, how are we all feeling now about becoming a trailblazer? How do we feel about letting go of who we thought we were and becoming something new? How much do you believe that you have the ability and the skills to make a change in the world? So notice how each of these phrases lands on your body. Do you feel fear? Do you feel resistance? Or do you feel a hell yeah? Loads to process. Yeah, well, that's why I say, I always end up giving a lot because the whole point is that each person has different things they hook into. So by giving this big group of elements for you to practice with, people will pick out different bits, and then the next time around you'll process other bits. And in a way, that's the perfect way of enjoying walking in the unknown. I'm not teaching you step-by-step growth. I'm trying to give you the pieces for you to create your own empowered path, the quantum human way. So if you are interested in joining me for the free masterclass, then it's whitestarsoulguidance@gmail.com. My brain just came back. Thank you. And thank you. Well done for reaching 50 episodes. We've grown with you. Thank you. That's great to know. I'm just going to check what's going on in Zoom because I think somebody managed to join us on Zoom and spam us a bit. So I've just been trying to turn that off as well. So Charles is saying, Charles doesn't get the world problem. So the reason I'm using it as a problem you're here to solve is because when I take people to see their best future, they see love and light, they see all humanity being blissful, medicine being more alternative, education being more integrated. They see all this great stuff, but that doesn't help us tell us what we have to do today to get there. So the reason we're looking at the problem that we're trying to solve is because it's easier then for us to see how Great Vision is going to change that. So this time round, we did something a bit different. We went to see what problems the Earth will have, remote view the problems in the future, and then came back and said, right, what solution can we provide to help avoid that from happening? So that's why I say the word problem. And he says, I'm falling in love with humanity's highest vision. I think, ideally, when we've got rid of a lot of our personality imposter syndrome type issues, then we might see solutions in the future. But like if I asked you, like if we go back to the aeroplane example, if I asked you to solve flight, then you wouldn't even know there was a problem that needed flight as a solution. So going to the future isn't, and seeing an aeroplane wouldn't register because you've got no context in the present. However, if you went to the future and saw that people needed to travel around the world more quickly as a problem, then you might then understand the need for the plane. So that's why I said problem this time. I wanted to see if we get different results if we looked at it from the big problem that we're here to solve as a movement. And in fact, it's called wicked problems in design. I didn't want to have to explain what a wicked problem is, but in design, it's called a wicked problem because these problems cannot be solved easily. They're interconnected. When you correct one thing, another thing falls off. So when you look at design and cognitive functions, then wicked problems is a concept in design that you can look up and read about. You have kind problems and wicked problems. So yeah, typically I find that everybody picks a kind problem as the thing they're here to do rather than a wicked problem. So that's why I use the word problem. It's the same with rare success. Sometimes these words, the words are the keys to unlocking people's energy. So that's why I use the words that I use. So somebody said, is this about SG? Is this about manifestation? I'm not a keen believer in things like the law of attraction or things like that, or the secret. This is more about co-creating. And that is a form of manifestation, but using the power of the mind, we can change who we are by visualizing and believing, because the mind doesn't know the difference between visualization and reality. So by visualizing things, then we're more able to see the connection. You know, if you were going to buy a blue car, then suddenly you see blue cars everywhere. So it's more the cognitive or the neurological aspects of manifestation that we're exploring when you're a trailblazer, as opposed to manifestation on its own. I think we covered that kind of part of it when we were talking about taking action. So being a trailblazer is a bit more about being a visionary first, manifesting after, but visioning it first, the ability to see it and vision what we need as humanity progresses. Hopefully I've answered everybody's questions there. Any other questions? So like I said, when I first started doing these, it was about helping people see their great vision, but then I realized there was a bunch of other steps we needed to do to get them to a state that they could even see it. And at this point in the metamorphosis process, we're looking at the aspects of us that we can already recognize as a visionary, as a futurist, and what we can start doing today to help define and co-create an earth that we all can be more comfortable on. So, unfortunately, this will be the last episode. But with your alchemist hat on, you can always go back and watch the others. Although I should say the other 50 episodes might not always be there on YouTube. So do catch them while I'm deciding what I'm going to do with them in my work. Because of AI scraping, I'm thinking of moving them off to my portal. And again, if you email me, I can get an email list started to get people onto that, so I can keep you in touch with what I'm doing with that and where it'll be living, so you can carry on having access to it that way. But you can always put comments on my old podcast. I will continue to have conversations with you, so we can continue to evolve together. And if you can share any of the episodes with other people you think might love them, then that would be appreciated too. Because we are trying to build a community of revolutionary critical thinkers and change makers. It's important now that we all step into this role and we don't do it alone, that we find other people to help us, to help share our stories that'll trigger us into new thought. We can trigger them into new thought. And this is what being a quantum human is. It's really down to the Renaissance kind of feeling, you know, with that wanting to explain our world, wanting to understand this new consciousness that could emerge, wanting to know how AI can make our consciousness grow. You know, this is what I fell in love with when I did artificial intelligence in the 80s, was the ability to understand through machine learning and language understanding how humans work and what makes us tick. So my interest has always been from that perspective, not the AI taking over the world kind of approach. There was always two aspects to the artificial intelligence studying back when I was in college. So I'm going to go now and spend some time with the people in my VIP on Zoom. And if anybody has any questions, now is your last chance. So while you're typing those in, let's just check. I am comfortable to be an authentic trailblazer, number 1 to 100. Let's see if your numbers have changed. I think Charles had 100 for everything, so. I'm comfortable to be my authentic trailblazing self, 1 to 100. That's number 1. So see if your numbers have gone up a little bit, but equally you could still be processing and allowing all this to sink in. Some of the numbers are going up there. Good. Number 2. I recognize futuristic ideas, 1 to 100. I recognize futuristic ideas, 1 to 100. That's number 2. They're all looking like they've gone up a bit as well, I think. This is all on Zoom, by the way, in case you're wondering, because yes, Charles, unfortunately, it's the last episode. I'll be posting content, but not live anymore. I'm going to be putting my attention into the membership instead. So number 3, I can see the hopes of humanity. Number 3, I can see the hopes of humanity. So Charles says he's not looking for it to be comfortable. That's what I said earlier, Charles, was that it's not about the trailblazing journey being comfortable. It's about you stepping into the role, which is walking in the unknown, being lonely, being ahead of your time. All of those things are not comfortable for sure. So number 3 is I can see the hopes of humanity. Woohoo, big jump. That wasn't my word, that was a comment. I can see the fears of humanity. Cool. 84, 82, 60, 98, 73, 60. Yeah, those are all great high numbers for all of those questions. Because we need to be able to see the problems and the hopes and the desires if we're going to come up with solutions that are going to prevent those things from coming true. So cool. So as we close today, remember, we are no longer who we thought we were. We're now shape-shifting again, and we have more abilities to create change than we may think. A small act can create big changes. And I made a really small comment about how something like, I think it was changing the printing blocks that used to be from in wood into metal, and how that had so many knock-on effects. But I'll tell you more about that if you join the masterclass. So go forth, quantum humans. Embody this, encourage others to be this, and create heaven on earth wherever you go. Create the heaven on earth that our soul longs for. The universe is here to support you, because when you are successfully using your talents in service of the world, that helps the universe to help the world. And then every living thing benefits. And when you're aligned with that, you will attract compensation and abundance. So thank you, everybody, for joining me on all of these episodes. Like I said, do put comments in. I'm not going away. I'll still be responding to comments on the episodes. But I'm just going to take a break while I reevaluate how to show up on YouTube now that these podcasts have come to an end. And I'll be spending some time getting the next cycle of my Metamorphosis program up and running and putting all the pieces together for that, which is exciting. So thank you for being with me. I think it's almost like 3 years. Am I wrong? I think it's about 3 years, if I remember correctly. I didn't mean to look when the first one was published, but 3 years of podcasts, who'd have thought? If you told me that in 2020, I wouldn't have believed you. But I'm going to call it there for tonight. My voice is starting to go already. I'm just glad I managed to get through this because my eyes are burning. So thank you, everyone, and lots of love to you all. And I hope to see you either at one of my events or in the chat so we can keep in touch, okay? All right, bye, guys.